Behind every murder, there's a mind that conceived it. Amina later wrote, "You intended to sell them to the highest bidder."
Okay.
What do you think about it?
Very funny.
Did you kill your daughters to shut them up?
All this is not truth. This is just accusation.
The mind behind the murders of 2 teenage girls in Texas belongs to Yaser Said, their father.
It's called an honor killing.
Honor killing.
Honor killing.
Oh my God, I just realized I'm recording.
Nicely.
Said is now on the FBI's 10 most wanted list.
We have no indications where he may be or where he has gone to.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. Today, I'm going to be talking about the devastating case of Sarah and Amina, the 2 young girls who were murdered by their father, Yaser Said. This case took place back in 2008, so it's been a while, but after Yaser took the lives of his 2 daughters, he fled for 12 years. He was captured in 2020 and he's been in prison for more than 4 years, and now he finally gave his first interview where he basically denied everything. But during the interview, experts noticed that his body language didn't match what he was saying. He was very inconsistent, which raised many questions about this man. But what exactly led Yaser to do this back in 2008? Before I get into the details of this tragic story, please make sure to like this video and also subscribe if you want to be notified for all future videos. Okay, let's talk about it. On January 1st, 2008, a heartbreaking 911 call was made by a girl screaming that her dad had just shot her. But tragically, Sarah and her sister Amina passed away before help arrived. But what exactly happened on that day leading up to their murders? First, let me tell you about Sarah and Amina and who they were. Amina was born in 1989 and Sarah was born in 1990. They had an older brother named Islam who was born in 1988. These 3 siblings were very close in age, but Amina and Sarah were not just sisters, they were best friends. They were always together. I mean, you can see that in photos and home videos of just how inseparable they were. Their father, Yaser Abdul Said, was born in January 27th, 1957 in Egypt. He moved to the US on a student visa in 1983. In February 1987, he married Patricia Owens. Yaser was 30 years old at the time and Patricia was only 15. That's a 15-year difference, but Patricia's family did not care. You see, they were very poor, so they believed that by marrying Yaser, it was a way out for Patricia. They believed that Patricia was guaranteed a better life by marrying an older man like Yaser. Now, after Patricia and Yaser got married, he became a US citizen in 1997. They both worked at a convenience store, and even though everything was good at first, things would change after their son Islam was born. Yaser became very controlling and abusive both physically and mentally. He was also very vocal about how much he didn't like Patricia's family because they were American. Which is strange to say because why would you move to a country where you don't like the people and culture? But his hate towards Americans becomes very obvious later on in the story. Years would go by and their 3 kids got older. Amina and Sarah were in their teens when things began to change. Like many teenage girls, they became interested in normal teenager things. They eventually got their first job and they began caring more about how they looked and how they dressed, and again, that's very normal. But Yaser wasn't too happy about these changes and he hated the fact that his daughters were growing up and he was losing control of them. As Yaser became more frustrated and angry, Sarah and Amina became more afraid of him. But Yaser wasn't going to step down and he actually became more strict and controlling with Amina and Sarah. He was also abused physically and sexually. When the girls were only 8 and 9 years old, they accused their father of SA, and Child Protective Services were called. Yaser was taken in for questioning, but the case was eventually dropped. It was said that the girls might have been told by family to change their story up so that their story can sound inconsistent, and then the case would be dropped. But the creepy videos that Yaser filmed in their house tell a very different story. In these videos, you can clearly see Yaser spying on his daughters and making very disgusting and inappropriate comments about them.
Wow, look at these eyes. If I put my eye on you.
I'm gonna get sick now. Okay, turn it off, Dad.
Yaser was known to film everything, especially his daughters. One video that really made me question this man's sanity is when he started filming his daughter, Amina, while she was at work. In the video, she was smiling while she helped a male customer, and her dad is seen in the car filming her and basically questioning why she's smiling at this man, and said that she would be in big trouble when she got home.
She can see us from inside, right?
Oh.
She smiled to the customers.
Bubba, she has to. Part of her job.
She's in trouble.
Patricia, their mother, didn't seem to do much about the situation, and even though a lot of this was going on in front of her, it seemed like she kind of just ignored it. It's really hard to tell if she was terrified of her husband Yaser or if she was just in denial. Their son Islam also enabled his father's behavior and made Amina and Sarah's life a living nightmare. It's really weird seeing the older brother do absolutely nothing to intervene and protect his sisters. I feel like he was also being brainwashed by his father's beliefs. Now, the thing that completely sent Yaser into a rage was finding out that his daughters, Sarah and Amina, were dating. Not only did Yaser prohibit his daughters from dating, but the fact that they were dating American men made it much worse. Which is so weird because his kids, as well as the mother of his kids, are American. But anyways, Yaser wanted his daughters to marry a Muslim man, specifically a man that he thought was right for his daughters. Now, Amina was dating a boy named Joseph that she met in martial arts class, and Sarah was also dating someone at this time. When Yaser found out about Amina's boyfriend, he immediately stopped sending them to martial arts class, and he became more controlling and strict with the girls, and they became more afraid of him. Then, when Amina turned 16 years old, Yaser and Patricia took her to Egypt to try to marry her off to someone. And Amina was devastated and worried. She did not want to marry the stranger, and she wanted to be with her boyfriend Joseph. Thankfully, the wedding was called off, and Amina returned back to the US. But from that point on, she knew what her father was capable of, and she was terrified. She really wanted to elope with her boyfriend Joseph, but that would never happen. Now, this is where things take a turn. Fast forward a few days before Christmas in 2007, things got really bad at home, and Yaser began threatening Amina and Sarah's life. And this wasn't the first time. But Sarah and Amina have had enough at this point, and they ran away from home with their mother Patricia. Patricia claimed that she would not go back to Yaser because she was convinced that he would take the girls' lives. So Patricia knew that Yaser was dangerous. Yaser, on the other hand, filed a police report that his 2 daughters and his wife were missing. Patricia's sister even warned her not to return to Yaser, but deep down, Patricia felt guilty for leaving her husband. It's really sad and unfortunate that she felt like she owed something to this man, even though he was a threat to her and her daughters. Perhaps because she's been through this so many times, she felt like maybe he wasn't going to do anything. Patricia made the terrible decision to go back home to Yaser. But Sarah and Amina were terrified and did not want to return back home with their father, and they begged their mother to stay, but she had already made her decision. These girls were convinced that if they went back home, their father was going to take their lives. But I guess they were holding on to a little bit of hope when their mother convinced them that nothing would happen. And this decision is something that will haunt Patricia for the rest of her life. On January 1st, 2008, almost 2 weeks after Amina and Sarah ran away, Yaser told the girls he wanted to take them out for dinner to talk. During this outing, Yaser shot both of his daughters multiple times while they sat in the back of his taxi and left them there to die. Amina instantly after being shot twice in the chest. But Sarah, who was shot 9 times, suffered a slow and painful death. In her final moments, Sarah still managed to call 911. During that call, Yaser had already fled the scene, leaving his daughters to die. Investigators later revealed that Yaser had called his brother Yasin multiple times in the weeks leading up to the murders, with one call lasting over 12 minutes, just hours after the killings. Yaser's family, including his sister, who was already wanted by the FBI for kidnapping her own children, were supporting and protecting Yaser. Yaser successfully hid for 12 years and was eventually put on the FBI's most wanted list. Eventually, he was caught, even though it took a while. People started noticing that he was living in an apartment rented by his son. The police confirmed Yaser's identity using DNA evidence collected from the apartment, matching to his daughter's DNA. After 12 years on the run, Yaser was finally arrested on August 26, 2020 in Justin, Texas. Yaser's son Islam and his brother Yasin were also arrested. Islam, who's now 32 years old, pleaded guilty to harboring a fugitive and obstructing justice. He was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. Yasin, on the other hand, who claimed he would have never helped his brother had he known the full extent of his crimes, was sentenced to 12 years in prison for conspiracy and harboring a fugitive. Now, this is where things get interesting and the reason why I'm making this video to begin with. After being in prison for 4 years, Yaser finally agreed to an interview. And I honestly believe that this man thought that this interview was his opportunity to manipulate everyone into thinking that he did not take his daughter's lives. Throughout this entire interview, he did not seem regretful for what he did, and instead he tried to tell a different story and claimed that he was the victim.
You make it sound like you're the victim here. Is that what you believe?
Exactly.
His goal throughout this interview was to reshape his image, and he claimed that he was innocent and said that he was being framed because of a conspiracy. According to Yaser, the FBI and the media used this case to push a political agenda. Now, that's a new level of psychopath, but take a look at what he said exactly.
You've agreed to sit with me for an hour, right? And truthfully answer my questions.
Okay.
You've agreed to that, right?
If I can, of course, yes.
And so why are you talking to me today?
Today, I want my voice be heard. The FBI knows that. My case is being used to achieve cheap political points.
Cheap political points?
Yes.
You say the FBI knows that you are innocent?
They know that, and I will tell you why.
Let me ask you this. In your letters to the judge, right, you write, in my case, you could smell conspiracy
Yes.
in the atmosphere.
Yes.
So that's what this is about. Conspiracy, conspiracy, conspiracy.
Of course.
After all these years, do you still deny your guilt, sir?
As he continued to defend himself, he tried to explain that he was a good father. He spoke about filming wholesome videos at home with his daughters, and he tried to show that he had that connection and love for them. But experts who studied his behavior during this interview believed he's extremely self-centered and focused more on having control of this interview than show that he truly loved and cared for his daughters. The experts said that his actions were more about power than anything else, and his strict rules were a way to dominate and control his family. Yaser's old home videos were given to a filmmaker named Nina Najad to show the world who he really was and what he had done. And here's what filmmaker Nina Najad had to say about these videos.
We wanted the nation to know who he was and what he had done. He was obsessed with videotaping, mostly the girls. It was a great insight into not just their lives, but also into Yaser Said and just his perversions, his control.
Yes, I will.
It was definitely a treasure trove of information.
And this part here really showed me how this man really did not feel anything for his daughters. When the interviewer asked Yaser how Sarah and Amina were like growing up, Yaser's tone completely changed. His eyes got watery and he wasn't excited anymore. He described them as good kids, but you can see how visibly awkward he got. And that's all he really said. It seems like he didn't have anything nice or memorable to say about them.
What was Amina like growing up?
She's a normal teenager. She's okay. She's smart, and I really they are good kids. That's
Good
what I'm
kids.
saying.
Yeah. And Sarah, what was she like?
It's the same. She and her sister, they are very close.
A psychologist named Robert Hanlon noticed this as well and said that these subtle changes in body language can tell a lot about someone's mindset, especially our I've noticed that usually when someone loses someone that they love, they smile and talk about all their amazing qualities and memories, but in this case, Yaser seemed very cold and uninterested. Yaser then tried to paint himself as a role model and said that his daughters never saw him do anything bad like smoke or drink. He wanted people to see him as a good father, but I think that he thought that during this interview, they weren't going to hit him with the facts and that he was just going to be able to tell his version of the story, which was mainly lies. Yaser lied throughout this interview a lot, especially with the drinking and smoking, because he actually did do both. Now, it doesn't make someone a bad person just because they drink or smoke, but it's just odd how he claimed that he was a good father because he didn't drink or smoke, even though he did. The psychologist also pointed out that Yaser was more interested and focused on talking about himself rather than his daughters. According to Robert, Yaser's self-centered attitude showed signs of someone with narcissistic or psychopathic personality, someone who craves attention.
He's not interested in discussing these types of family issues. He wants to talk about himself. This man is extremely egotistical, self-centered. Some, particularly some psychopaths, narcissistic psychopaths, they want the attention.
Then the interviewer asked him, when your daughters were becoming more Americanized, did you have a problem with it? Instead of saying no, Yaser began stuttering and denied it and said, no, we don't. We like Americans. I mean, you can see how this question caught him off guard, but his response is not genuine. It's clear that his thoughts and opinions on this does not align with what he said out loud.
Now, your daughters were born and raised in Texas, right? And they were becoming naturally more Americanized, and that was a problem for you, right?
No. We like America. We like the rules in America. We like it.
What about women's and girls' rights?
We like the
freedoms.
Yaser had planned to arrange a marriage for his daughters, but his version of arranged marriage wasn't what most people imagine. He claimed that he did not force them, but Amina wrote in an email to her teacher that she was scared of her father and believed that he was gonna sell her off to an older man, and when Yaser was asked about this, he just laughed.
You wanted the girls to be wed in arranged marriages in Egypt, right?
It's arranged marriage now. This is big story because some people, they don't know what that means. They think we force the girl to marry the man we like, which is wrong.
Amina later wrote about her fears that you intended to, and these are her words, quote, sell them to the highest bidder, to an older man that she did not love in a land that she said she hated.
Okay.
What do you think about it?
Very funny, really. I'm laughing. Do you see me? I laugh. It's very funny.
But this interview only got worse. When Yaser was asked about his daughter's virginity, he didn't hide how important it was to him. He said that in his culture, a girl's virginity was crucial for marriage. And according to his beliefs, if his daughters were no longer virgins, it could ruin their marriage prospects. But still, when he was asked if their sexual lives gave him a reason to hurt them, he denied it.
How important was your daughter's virginity to you?
This is a very important issue to anyone in the Middle East.
And I imagine that if they were not virgins, that could compromise or undermine a plan to arrange their marriages, right?
Mostly no one marry a girl he knows she's not virgin.
So if they were
that's
having
in the
sex,
Middle East, not here.
if they were having sex, would that have given you a motive to kill them?
No,
No?
No, I told you I didn't think the way they think over there in the Middle East.
But little did Yaser know that at the time, his daughters were leaving behind crucial evidence. In the weeks before their father took their lives, Amina told her teacher that her father had threatened her with a gun. In a letter Amina wrote, she said that she knew her father would take their lives.
Amina herself, she knew this was going to happen. She told people this was going to happen. We are running away before the break ends.
I don't know whose people
I
she
know that
told.
he
I
will
didn't hear.
search until he finds us,
Now
and he
this
will,
didn't
without
make
any
sense.
drama or doubt, kill us. Those are the words of your own daughter, Amina, about you, just weeks before you them.
I didn't murder nobody.
This makes me so angry because these girls were literally reaching out for help, and I feel like enough wasn't done to get them that help and that support. If their claims were taken more seriously sooner, I feel like they would still be here today. Now, take a look at this clip to see what he said when the interviewer asked him about the night Amina and Sarah were murdered.
Tell me, Mr. Said, in your own words, and in as much detail as you can, what happened that night?
I was going to talk to them, and their car was following me.
And you became alarmed that you thought you were being followed,
Yes.
right? And then what happened next?
I stopped in an area where everyone can see us. The Dart bus station. I left.
You left the car?
I left. I was mad, and I left. Just take myself and left.
You were mad or you were afraid?
Boss, and you need to know who follows this car. They said, oh, later on in the court I find out the father of the boy, one of the boyfriend, it was one of this car, because I say two cars, they say one car.
The story that he's been consistent with from the very beginning is that when he was driving in his car with his daughters in the back seats, he felt like someone was following him, so he stopped the car and then he got scared, so he ran away, leaving his daughters behind. But his story doesn't add up because he never called the police or reported any threat. Instead, he created this whole story that he believed he was in danger from people that he didn't know. And still to this day, there is no evidence to support this claim. The phone records from that night also makes it clear that Yaser's alibi doesn't add up. At 7:29 p.m. the same night he took his daughter's lives, he answered a phone call from Amina and Sarah's mother, and this is while he was still in the car with them. Yet, just 4 minutes later, Sarah used her last breath to call 911. So according to this timeline, he shot them between 7:29 and 7:33 p.m.
At 7:29, you took that phone call.
I guess, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And then 4 minutes later, just 4 minutes later, your brave daughter, Sarah, uses her last breath to call 911. 4 minutes later. So this elaborate conspiracy you talk about would have had to happen between 7:29 and 7:33.
I'm not sure about the time.
You had a gun, a firearm in the car?
No, I was not have the gun in the car. I wish I have it.
Also, in the chilling 911 recording, Sarah clearly says that her father just shot them and that they were going to die. Which, even though that recording is so disturbing, I'm glad that she was able to call and say that it was her father who did this. This case was very difficult for a lot of people to learn about because the whole thing was just so senseless. During the trial, the officer that was first at the scene was so emotional, and it shows that this still affects him till this day.
Sure that I have two deceased people at the scene, and that I need more units to help cordon off a perimeter.
Now, when Yaser was questioned about having a gun, first he denied it, and then during court, he admitted that he did have a gun, but he only had it for protection, especially when he was driving through dangerous areas. But then he claimed that on that night, he didn't even think about the gun and he left it behind in his car.
No, I was not have the car. I wish I have it.
But your testimony in court, you acknowledged leaving the in the car.
So, what did you do with your عملت ايه؟ Because it's a dangerous area when I'm going to work at night, I would take my gun with me and place it between the seat and the cubby. But not every day.
You left the gun in the car, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Why would you leave your gun behind?
At this time, you didn't think about guns. You think about to run for your life.
You were running for your life?
Yes.
And you didn't think to keep your gun to protect yourself? There are so many contradictions in your story. That's why I'm asking you. You sensed danger, but you left your girls to face it on their own.
I never thought it would go that far.
My thing is, if you had this weapon in your car and you felt like your life was in danger and you had your daughters with you in your car, then wouldn't it make sense to protect yourself? Not leave your daughters behind and run away? His whole story is full of contradictions and lies. And it's not just a gun story. After the murder, Yaser disappeared for 12 years. He didn't even attend his daughter's funerals. When he was asked about this, he said that he was advised not to go. He said he feared that he would not get a fair trial, but that still doesn't explain why he disappeared even before the media started covering the case.
Of an innocent man? You never turned yourself in. How were you able to do that? Immediately after you disappear for 12 years, you didn't even go to the funerals to mourn them.
Go to the funeral?
Yes.
I was I will not get fair trial. That's why.
But you disappeared even before there were media reports.
How you want me to go to the funeral?
What innocent man would not go to mourn their daughters at their funerals?
Most of the people advise me not to go to the funeral.
Who told you not to go to the funerals? Huh? Who told you not to go to the
Everybody.
Everybody? What do you mean, your family?
No, even the community.
After 12 years of being on the run, how can anyone believe that he's innocent? His denial continued until the very end of the interview. And it seems like he was getting pretty frustrated when the interviewer kept showing all the evidence whenever he tried to defend himself. It wasn't long until Yaser refused to speak anymore, and then he just ended the interview. I think the part that solidified this case and put Yaser behind bars was Sarah's call to 911. It makes me sad how these girls just wanted to live a normal life and they couldn't even have that. And I can't even imagine what they went through growing up with their father, who basically watched their every move. I briefly spoke about this case a couple of years ago on my TikTok, but since this recent interview with Yaser, I knew I had to talk about it again. I think this recent interview was great because it confirmed to a lot of people, including myself, that this man is evil and should be in prison for the rest of his life. But that is it for today. Let me know what you guys think about Yaser's interview in the comments. If you found this video informative and you enjoyed it, make sure to like this video. It shows YouTube that you like my content, and I'm sure they will recommend more of my future videos to you. Also, I don't post every day on YouTube, but I do on my other social medias, so if you want to keep up with me, make sure to follow me there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Stay safe. Bye.